and now we go into the panel which is titled The Role of Civil Society and How We All Keep the Idea of Democracy Alive. And this, may I remind you, is the only panel which is formulated as a question, so I will use that also in the discussion. And we live in times where in a number of countries democracy is under siege, threatened by Eurosceptic, pro-Putin, totalitarian populist forces which aim to secure and monopolize power. Including civil society is not the goal, it's the tool. By this, however, it is also a symptom of these regimes, which is not to recognize political pluralism, the manifoldness of views, the diversity of approaches. We all have seen these attacks by Robert Fico, Andrej Babiš, Viktor Orbán in the EU, or Alexander Vučić, Alexander Lukashenko, or Donald Trump outside the EU. To only name a few who enjoy bashing civil society in their social media rants, public addresses on rallies, or the occasional interviews in traditional media. Their inability to function in a system where all segments of society have a say in public representation leads to the lack of air and a lack of willingness to participate in political debates. But this also leads to apathy, to anger, and to a severe polarization of these societies on a scale unseen in history. So the main question is really not how to build democratic resilience, but how to keep the idea of democracy alive at all. Our guests today come from a variety of backgrounds and from many walks of life. They come from outside Europe, Baltic Europe, and Central Europe. Let me introduce to you Juliet Parker, director of ALNAP from the UK, who is unfortunately not here today, but we will see a video message from her. Neringa Jurčiukonytė, Director of Media for Change from Lithuania, and Andrea Najvirtová, Executive Director of People in Peril from Slovakia. And my name is Oskar Hofmeister. I'm the head of Global Europe Program in Europeum, as was announced. So I suggest now to play the video message firstly by Juliet Parker, and then we can continue the discussion. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Alice Obrecht, and I'm the head of research and impact at ALNAP. I'm sure that others at the conference by now will have quoted the 2023 report by the Civicus Monitor, which showed a continued global decline in civic space, with almost a third of the world's population now living in countries with closed civic spaces. At our organization, which focuses on humanitarian action and looks at the role that civil society plays in responding to crises, we have seen the stark implications of this decline. One of the major findings of our flagship report, the 2022 State of the Humanitarian System report, was that this decline in civic space, which is often considered to be a development or human rights issue by the humanitarian community, was in fact having real consequences and impacts on the principled delivery of humanitarian aid in countries all around the world. We saw this in Venezuela, where civil society actors were jailed for delivering cash assistance, all the way to Afghanistan, where female civil society leaders were not only seeing their voice taken away, but also the right to work in service of their communities. This paints a grim picture, but the purpose of this panel this afternoon, and indeed this entire conference, is to carve out some chinks of light in what feels like a dark period for democracy. So with that in mind, I'd like to offer 3 lessons from ALNAP's work with humanitarian civil society actors and our network on how civil society can continue to learn from one another and keep the idea of democracy alive. First, it's important to remember that between 2 situations or circumstances, there will always be a mixture of similarities and differences, and the key is to figure out what those are, rather than assume that what has worked in one place will work everywhere, so assuming everything is similar, or presuming the opposite, that the problems that are facing one civil society actor or one particular country are unique only to that context or organization. Good civil society learning has to be grounded in local knowledge systems and ways of knowing, but we frequently see the wider benefits when people are able to find what's universal in their experience and outlook and share this with others outside their locality. We've seen this happen with very different organizations, both civil society groups from different countries coming together to learn, but also learning shared between very small, hyper-local organizations and big international civil society counterparts. The key is to remember that we're all different with different types of expertise, but the challenges we face are often similar. The second key lesson is to be simple in your learning method or approach, but look for complexity in the substance of what you learn and how you think. Learning does not have to be shared in the form of long, academically written reports, even though that might be what many researchers prefer to write it. And indeed, we actually have found that this is often the antithesis of how learning happens. We know from our own research that decision makers are social learners, and oftentimes a phone call or conversation is more effective for learning than even an executive summary. Consortia approaches, in which clusters of civil society actors work together on a shared issue, are a well-known approach for supporting this kind of shared learning and social learning. And technology is enabling even simpler means of sharing learning, such as WhatsApp groups and channels. While these methods or approaches can be simple and should be simple, civil society actors need to embrace complexity in how they think about their work and the challenges they're trying to address, including the knock-on effects of what they're doing. Increasingly, we see that civil society actors that are national or local, working in their locality, are the ones that are leading the thinking and work on designing multi-layered services that crisscross the international aid silos of development, humanitarian, and peace work. This multi-dimensional work, oftentimes called the HGP Nexus work, engages with the potential negative side effects that development, human rights, humanitarian, and peace work can have on one another. And it is absolutely critical for building more resilient and open societies in the future. Third and finally, civil society actors must not forget their superpower, their relationships with the communities that they serve. This is where the most valued learning really comes from, and where all the learning needs to come back to be of utmost benefit. CSOs not only deliver humanitarian assistance, they also play a role in the democratic process around disaster and crisis response by independently monitoring the government's response and providing open critique and accountability when that response is not adequate. In short, CSOs play a crucial learning function for their societies and how those societies prepare for and manage crises. In turn, they need to ensure that they are drawing learning up from affected communities and reflecting this accurately and effectively in order to influence changes in policy and practice for future generations. And this has relevance outside the scope of humanitarian crisis or domestic crisis response. Research in the wider civil society and democracy space has shown how critical community level feedback is for helping CSOs learn about their own work and improve. So 3 key lessons from LNAP's work on learning. Number 1, look for the similarities and differences in our experiences. Number 2, be simple in the learning method, but open to complexity in the substance of what you learn about. And 3, remember that the source and purpose for all civil society learning lies in the communities that we serve. Thank you, and wishing you a fruitful discussion for the remainder of this panel.
Thank you. And now returning to our participants in the room and returning to the thesis question, so to say, of how we all keep the idea of democracy alive, I would like to ask both of you to provide us with an insight into your work, both as individuals and how you tackle these problems today, but also through your institutional work and through the organizations you represent. So maybe we can start with Neringa.
Thank you, Oscar, and thank you everyone for being with us here. It's an honor to talk to the people who are dedicated to keep our democracy alive. I'm representative of Media for Change, international platform which is dedicated to foster responsible journalism and media literacy. And in this context, I would love to start by asking you a question. Can you remember when the last time you felt connected to the media that you are consuming? Did it prompt you to reflect Did it make you feel understood and important? Or opposite, it made you disconnected and overwhelmed of the complexity of the world? This is crucial because media presents the way how we understand democracy. It shapes how we understand the world too. It's not just a source of information. The media focuses solely on crisis, fear, and division. It weakens trust and creates distance between people. At Media for Change, we believe in different kind of journalism. The one that fosters mutual understanding and strengthens democratic processes. We bring together experts, journalists, and unrepresented groups of society together to ensure that media is used as a tool to empower them to be active in the democratic world. Without trustworthy media, democracy is at risk. Yet, journalism face a major challenges now. Traditional business models for journalism are failing. Local news, so vital in holding power accountable and acting as watchdogs, are disappearing. Increasingly, media organizations are taking very similar role as civil society organizations, searching for ways to survive and to reconnect to the audience. This is where the role of all of us becomes vital. Civil society and media are natural allies in the fight against disinformation and division. We share common goals: to inform, to connect, and to ensure that everyone's voice is heard. One of our initiatives at Media for Change is Engaged Journalism Platform. We call it Bendra.lt. If you translate it to English, so it's something that is shared, something that is common. It's a platform designed to amplify unrepresented voices and tell the stories that matters. But we are not stopping here. We are traveling to different regions, engaging directly with communities to rebuild trust between journalists and public. And we cannot do it alone. We need your partnership. Wherever you represent a civil society organization or advocacy network, we need your insights and collaboration. What stories in your community matters? What stories are not being told? We can work together to make journalism more responsive and representative. And I leave you with a thought that strong and independent journalism depends on its audience. Without your engagement, journalism, and by extension, the democracy, cannot thrive. We cannot allow disconnection and distrust to become a norm. So today I'm not just here to speak, I'm here to invite you to collaborate. Only by working together we can ensure that media remains a force of democracy and connection. Media for Change is launching a virtual platform for collaboration of key actors, and I count on you to be here. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you are okay after the great lunch, digesting, but open to engage in discussion. It's my first year with the Civil Society Forum, and it's really a pleasure and inspiration to be part of this group and to listen to your experience. And I would like to share my experience. I'm the executive director of People in Peril, a Slovak organization, and I would like to talk about how we work to support democracy in Slovakia and through our humanitarian and development work abroad. Maybe before I start on the concrete examples, a few words about the organization, because it also then shapes how we think about and how we approach building democracy, and then also about the context of Slovakia. So our organization was established in 1999, when many organizations were established in Slovakia. It was established by a group of journalists who responded with the humanitarian assistance to people affected by the conflict in Kosovo. And inspired by the story of the Czech organization, which some of you might know, People in Need, Czech Republic, they established People in Peril, based in Slovakia, with quite a similar programming also. So we support people affected by humanitarian crisis, either caused by natural disasters or by man-made disasters, such as, for example, wars. We also work in Slovakia, supporting people living in generational poverty. We have a lot of Roma living in Slovakia in really horrible conditions. So we support their inclusion and their living conditions. We also assist refugees in Slovakia, notably since many people from Ukraine came after the outbreak of full-scale war. But we also have a global education program where we work with journalists, with teachers. We organize an annual documentary movie festival, One World, where we bring global topics to the public, to kids at schools, and to the general public. As for Slovakia, the context, is the mic resonating? It's okay, good. So we separated peacefully from Czech Republic in 1993. Then in the 90s, we already experienced the first wave of autocratic regime with a government that centralized, controlled, weakened democratic institutions. Slovakia was delayed then into second group for accessing the EU. We then saw a large mobilization of civil society. That's when many civil society organizations were established, supported by international community, by capacity building programs. Big mobilization to turn the tide, and we did manage. And we managed also to get back to the group of 10 countries that joined the EU from Central and Eastern Europe. We implemented then many reforms, were known as like the Reform Tiger. However, many of these reforms, not all people were able to take the fruits of these reforms and of this also increase in quality of life. And we've seen a growing polarization in the society and discontentment. Escalating in 2018, where an investigative journalist, Jan Kuciak, was killed, murdered together with his fiancée, Martina Kušnírova. That's when the biggest protests happened in Slovakia in its modern history throughout the country. The prime minister had to resign then, and then we experienced the government composed of like many different parties, with going through all the crises, starting from COVID. Ruling in a very chaotic way, which contributed to further weakening of institutions. And we had elections in October 23, and that's when we are now. Also, a reason why Slovakia was mentioned several times today already, where again we are moving towards authoritarian practices. The current government attacking media, attacking on a regular basis NGOs. We had laws passed that weakened jail terms for corruption. We have a draft law, anti-NGO law, waiting to be tackled now in October. That would label organizations as with foreign support. There's government control of public broadcaster. So all the steps towards a more authoritarian regime, which is really difficult because we thought that we were already behind that, and now we are experiencing again like same but worse. Let me switch. When it comes to international solidarity from Slovakia, only 20 years ago, we ourselves were a recipient of official development assistance. So it's only since 20 years that we are a state obliged and committed to supporting other countries. So basically the NGOs, together with the institutions, were building international solidarity ecosystem from scratch. So raising awareness on why it is important to support other countries, to support people affected by generational poverty, by humanitarian crisis, by wars in other countries. So also building the fundraising support of the public, but also building capacities of ourselves, but also of the institutions. And I'm often saying that as a young country engaging systematically in international solidarity, for me it's almost as important the work that we do abroad, because it's very little compared like to bigger donor countries with a tradition of supporting other countries. But for me it's also very important the stories that we bring back to Slovakia, to the general discourse, the stories of people, of their life, of their support, of their struggles, and how Slovakia can assist. So this is a bit of the context of our work. Our approach to supporting democracy is rooted in humanitarian principles as a humanitarian NGO. So we align with the principles of neutrality, impartiality, and independence as a humanitarian organization to have access to different type of target groups. But we also root our work on supporting civil society in the understanding that it's through democratic processes and a vibrant civil society that you can unlock the potential of human potential and human development. So how does it look in practice? We do have 5 key areas of our work, and support to civil society is one of our core 5 areas. We support local CSOs, grassroots CSOs, local actors, in their capacity development, in addressing issues that they find important, in addressing the needs they have, and in engaging also then with their duty bearers, with their municipalities, with their national governments. We try to work in such a way that they can do what they find important, what their needs are. For example, since the outbreak of full-scale war in Ukraine, we were able, as a neighboring country, with also an influx of a large number of refugees from Ukraine, we were able to generate quite significant amounts of flexible funding, which we then gave further also to Ukrainian civil society, who was a very important partner for us in providing the immediate relief. So we supported 71 projects in the amount of €1 million, addressing needs such as mental and psychosocial support, gender-based violence, safe spaces, education, winterization, etc. We do also for the past years we worked with civil society in many countries. For Slovakia, it was also quite like an export article to share experience, how we turned the tide in the 90s, how we then accessed the EU, the role of civil society. So civil society cooperation, training, exchange of experience was very crucial part of our work, focusing mostly on the smaller, locally based civil society organizations. We also support journalists, as we also consider that independent media is a crucial part of democracy, and we also work with media in Slovakia. So for example, last year we trained a group of 50 journalists coming from local and regional media in Moldova on their capacities to also generate funding from their work, and on their capacities to do high quality, engaging, investigative work. And it was really important also because last year Moldova had local and regional local elections. We also support community structures, so contributing to the fabric of actors at the local level. So for example, in Ukraine, we support schools so that they can then decide what they need in terms of improving access to education, inclusion in education. We also focus joint forces on advocacy. And also international advocacy and joint advocacy. We do regard civil society as an important actor to share their experience, expertise on policies, on programs, on strategies as part of the democratic dialogue and democratic process. So, for example, in Slovakia, the government also came with an idea to cancel the 2% tax assignation that we heard about today exists in Poland. And we mobilized across the sector to show what we are doing with these 2% and what people and the public would lose if this tax assignation mechanism would be abandoned. We also played smart to use the examples that are the most responding for the general public, such as social work, for example, education, But we used it also then to protect and we collaborated across the sector, so including watchdog NGOs, monitoring NGOs to save the mechanisms. And actually, the campaign then also helped that there was a lot of talk about the work of civil society organizations in the general public, and it was an occasion to talk about all the good things we're doing. We do also join forces internationally, so we also sent a letter as civil society in Slovakia to our Ministry of Foreign Affairs on the anti-NGO law in Georgia. We did advocate with the donors so that they understand the need for more flexible funding for local NGOs, for local media. Or we worked with the CSOs in Gagauzia to improve their operational environment for their functioning. Another key thing in this phase of narrowing civic space for us is networking and collaboration. And I'm happy that we are also here to have opportunity to network. Internationally, it's really important for us, and we are doing it more and more now. And as we see the narrowing of civic space, it's important for us to exchange know-how, to exchange ways how to address it, how to fight back. Our civil society platform was exchanging with Hungarian partners already 3 years before. Based on that experience, we already were establishing a platform for democracy. We connected with the Czechs to exchange experience. So it's really useful to see that we are not alone, that other countries have experienced similar steps. And for me, it was also great to hear today also again more details of possible way to fight back. In Slovakia, we are also supporting and active members of different platforms. What is important for us is to focus on what unites us, what are our common goals, because what we see is, as was mentioned also today, that the government tries to divide between good NGOs, the social and the sports NGOs, and then the bad NGOs, the political NGOs, the watchdogs NGOs. Then we have the good conservative NGOs, the bad liberal NGOs. And through this platform, we are working to stay engaged, even though we come from different spectrums of work, different approaches to work. And to stay joined and stay in one position towards the government, using our different also constituencies. So the faith-based NGOs using their influence, liberal NGOs using their influence, service-based NGOs, watchdog NGOs, each of us using our different strength for the common cause and for keeping the civic space. Also, what I find important is cooperation across sectors. So engaging also business sector, which there is a lot of businesses that do understand our work, that do understand the work of civil society, where we have cooperation, where we cooperate on concrete projects. For example, we even have established a program together with a bank on supporting Roma housing in Slovakia. So it's really then interesting to engage also on the differences of the different sectors, but also in promoting the understanding of the functioning and challenges of civil society. And we do also engage the public, so working through media and art, to bring topics important to democracy to the public, promote discussions, promote awareness. So if we ask ourselves whether there's a positive picture or a pessimistic picture, I have to say it took us a bit of time to understand what's happening and the shock that it's happening so fast. But I do see resilient civil society. I do see a resilient civil society in Slovakia, fighting to keep the civic space. I do see extremely resilient society in Ukraine, providing humanitarian assistance during an active conflict, contributing to reforms, contributing to reconstruction of Ukraine. I see resilient society in Moldova, where there's also a lot of disinformation and big influence. So these are my personal experiences from my work, and I'm happy to meet also other representatives from resilient civil society. And I really liked the saying of dancing in the rain in times of storm. And this is what I feel we are doing. We will continue our work. We will continue promoting the values we strongly feel about, even when the conditions and the context is stormy.
Thank you. Now let me return to Neringa and ask if we perceive the civil sector as a mediator between various segments of society and decision-making even, and if we perceive media as the voice of this bridge, and if we would live in an ideal society, how would media serve best the needs of its consumers? And especially if we keep in mind that we are now in a vast transition with digitalization, on-demand services, the soon-to-end daily print media, the entry of AI into the newsroom, and most importantly, news desertification. And how could media serve best its listeners, viewers, and readers in this even fragmenting world?
Well, listening to all of us today, I think the problem is that they think about challenges as something external, something which is outside, bad things are happening outside. But I think it's very important to realize that it's something which happens within, inside. We are taking part in the society, and it's like a certain dynamics that we create, not only media, but in general society, like we are whole. And the problem is that too many people feel unheard. They feel that their voice doesn't matter. And this is what we are trying to do with different startups. We actually start listening to the people, and polarization is at the highest rates, and we all feel very comfortable to be in our bubble. How often you talk to different minded people, and we try. We go with Newsroom on Wheels around Lithuania to different regions, and we start asking questions. What is outside media agenda? What matters to you? And in the center, there is an empathy. If we do not hear each other, we lose a chance to connect. And so a lot of challenges, but I think the answer is very simple: to reconnect to each other, to start listening to each other. And there are different type of methods that we use, but it's in general like face-to-face activities. We use theater intervention based on our conversations with different people from different regions who have lots of fears. They don't understand what is happening. They feel that the world is changing. There is a war in different parts of the world, and they want to find something to hold on, you know, something which is remaining. So sometimes it happens, it's traditional, so-called traditional values and so on. So yeah, from our experience, the answer is so simple. Just that hearing people, understanding, and building stories on what they are telling. Make sure that their interests and their fears are not missing. Yeah, so this is very simple, and focus on what is shared. We have much more in common with society, with people who are against human rights and many other things. We have lots of things in common.
Thank you. It's interesting that you mentioned empathy, because that's the same thing I wanted to ask Andrea as well. People in Peril is standing behind the One World Documentary Film Festival. You have mentioned a lot of approaches you have, which are trans-regional, trans-national, trans-sectoral, but you haven't mentioned this festival, and we've talked about it also outside, and it's a fascinating piece of management, piece of ideas, piece of processes. And how is such a festival received by the audience in these times when solidarity is both proven and challenged, and when humanitarian agency is a polarizing issue, and when helping someone both unites and divides societies, neighborhoods, even families? So could you explain what the idea behind the festival is, how it is conceived, and how it is consumed by the audiences throughout the years? Thank you.
So basically we are organizing, the idea behind organizing a documentary movie festival is that the documentary movies give you a platform for discussion. It's a perspective of the author, of the filmmaker. You can get to countries where you don't have the chance to go. You can delve into topics that you don't have the chance to learn about. But at the same time, the documentary movie provides you an independent platform for discussion. And we are using also documentary movie festivals. We have a program for schools where we also develop materials for teachers, where they can play the movie during class, and then they have the tool to have a critical discussion with the pupils on the topic, listening, hearing about different perspectives. So it's a very good tool for discussion. We have been organizing, it's now the 25th anniversary that we have been organizing. We started more like in a partisan way, like more with student public in the first years. Now the festival has developed to one of the major film festivals in Slovakia, with bringing high quality, so not only activistic movies, but also high artistic quality movies. And we are also awarding a prize for societal change through arts this year. We are opening with a movie on the story of a doctor from Gaza who has been working in Israel. He has had his 3 daughters killed and is promoting the idea of not hating. And indeed, it's a topic that is very polarizing. So when we are all like we are divided in Slovakia on people supporting Ukraine and then people influenced by the propaganda. But then, like, even people who are clear on Ukraine are very divided, very polarized on the topic of Middle East. And we hope that we will bring a platform to show a human story, to show the story of a person, what this war means to the concrete person, and to try to bring a bit of empathy into the discussion, to focus on the human. So we have the opening on Friday. Let's keep our fingers crossed that we will manage. But the festival is more than just documentary movies. It's a lot of discussions between different stakeholders from different countries, different sectors. And it's for us a celebration where we meet and discuss about the state of the world.
Thank you very much. And now I would like to open the floor for questions, comments. We have approximately 30 minutes, so we will have ample time to address a multitude of issues. And please raise your hand if you have a question. It's on.
Is it on? Okay. Sorry, I didn't feel like I should have the microphone first because I'm co-chair of Civil Society Forum, but I found both the presentations amazing. Thank you, both of you, for being here, and also for your moderation. I wanted to come back to the theme of journalism and media. Two points, or maybe you can expand on them or respond to them. So, as I was a former member of the European Parliament, and I did a lot of election observation in fragile democracies. And I was always really struck by one of the things that we took into account was media. So we would meet with all the stakeholders, the different parties, the people running their electoral systems, you know, the legal services, all the rest of it. But we always had meetings with media and with civil society. And I don't think many people are aware of how much this matters to, you know, when elections are happening particularly, the way that the media is responding is super, super important. And that in itself can be part of the report back about whether or not the elections are fair and free and whether or not, you know, what needs to change in these fragile democracies. And then the other thing I just wanted to pick up on was whether or not you are practicing solutions journalism, which I have discovered is, I mean, basically, solutions journalism is a way of being a journalist, reporting on things, and exactly what it says on the tin, like coming up with solutions. And I think that people who are working within the field of media could much more be going along this line, actually. And there is a global community of people practicing solutions journalism.
Yes, solution journalism is a very good answer. Not just recently, but it's kind of recent hype that journalists that, like the former traditional business models fails, so it's a huge chance to reconnect the audience, because journalism can be dependent only if audience contributes somehow. It's if audience empower it, you know, like sustains with subscription, donation, so it can be truly independent. So this is a chance to actually look what our audience needs. And usually different newsrooms are very much surprised when we look deeper what actually audience needs. So solution is a part of it. Surveys tells that media is obsessed by update me need. There is a need, update me, but it needs released. The biggest need of the audience of society is direct me. give me direction, search for the answers together with me. I don't know what is the direction, the world is too complex, and educate me. So this is the ruling, not ruling, but this is actually needs of most of the audience wherever you go, and solution journalism falls into it. So definitely solution journalism is a part of the answer, but not only. I had a project, a very interesting one, and we wanted to work actually with undecided middle, because you can't change so quickly, radically people, you know, but if you found undecided middle and identify what are their values, you can speak in their language, because and to put your values into their language so they could understand. And I was very much surprised that we actually are not interested what are needs and attitudes of undecided middle. And I was looking at different surveys, and I found out that in Lithuania, and I guess in all of the countries, and yours too, we know about values a lot of the capital, of the biggest cities, but we often forget regions. And then I thought, okay, Neringa, so who could think about regions, you know? And I thought, at least during elections, politicians must think about regions. And I contacted different people, you know, and they told, like, Neringa, it's just the biggest cities. It's middle class or higher class, which can actually buy things. So this is marketing, target of the marketing, and we lose the other part of Lithuania. And usually we are very much surprised every election because we don't know how society lives. And I was very much inspired traveling around Lithuania. Usually everything is written on my face, or when I meet people who tells that LGBTQ plus people are enemies and, you know, reason why the world is collapsing. You can read from my face, but I really tried to listen, to be empathic, and what I find out that sometimes people just need to be heard, to tell about their life, and you find out that the life outside the biggest cities is quite difficult, and it's not in media, nobody knows about it. We find out that people in Lithuania live from 100 euro, you know, 100 euro. Can you try to survive? And we stay with them. We do anthropology, videography, based on anthropologic methods. Then we stay with them and do not frame them, but let them tell their stories. And I'm very much surprised what we find out. And I'm so much surprised that the rest of Lithuania also care what the second Lithuania, we call it two Lithuanias, yeah, region and the biggest cities. But when we disseminate our stories, because we publish it not only on our website, we disseminate it through other media, the biggest media, and we see what popularity is of the news. And sometimes we see that very simple stories, just about guy Antanas, who is living with 100 salary and trying to tell what is his story, how he survives. A lot of people read it it's one of the most popular news, so simple news. So I feel that we are close to the answer, and that there is a big meaning to actually reconnect, to communicate with people, and based on our experiences, we build theater, and people cry in those theater. People in capital, from the regions, because they find themselves. So I believe that there is no external enemy. It's just we who. You know, social media divided us into bubbles, and we feel very much comfortable in our bubble. But that is the problem, Fiesta, that we want a bubble, and society is not a bubble. We are so different. I don't know if I answered.
Yeah, well done. Thank you.
I have a couple of questions to both of speakers. Neringa, one for you. On journalists, because we spoke how disinformation is one of the huge factors that is eroding democracy everywhere. And I mean, for journalists, this is your bread and butter to produce news, to bring the stories, and it feels that disinformation is kind of killing the profession. I'm wondering if there's something you see in Lithuania, maybe broader. Are there any initiatives by journalists themselves coming together and starting new projects in order to technically take back their profession? I'm wondering if you see more of the journalistic solidarity, and if it's in Lithuania or maybe broader in Europe. And my question also about solidarity goes to Andrea. I find it incredible now that you are, as a humanitarian agency and working in those various communities and countries, now in a way need to defend democracy at home. And I'm wondering if this is changing something in the way you operate. And of course, a question emerges, well, as a humanitarian agency, do you also need solidarity? I mean, would you be accepting if, say, your recipients of your programs and support will be standing now in solidarity and addressing the situation in Slovakia? I'm just taking this case because I think it is relevant for very many countries. Thank you.
Good, thank you very much. Well, the trends in practical term for now mean to us that we need to allocate more time, capacities and people for defense of civic space. So one colleague is monitoring the developments, engaging in all the platforms. We have every 2 months we are participating in a press conference defending either the 2% assignation or finding recently the government approved the transactional tax on all bank payments, including for civil society, which would cost us another 20,000 euro per year. So we are like, we need more time to spend on this, but we do find it worthwhile to engage on that. And when it comes to international solidarity, I mean, if the situation gets worse, if the law gets approved in a form that is drafted, we might need more solidarity. We are not the first one in the front line. It's more the watchdog NGOs, the anti-corruption NGOs, which we also support through our platform. So these are the ones that are now first one to be supported, as they are like carrying the flag. But let's see how it goes. I'm also saying that we are lucky to be in the EU and to already have what was already mentioned, the court judgment on the law, anti-NGO law in Hungary, because when the draft law was prepared in Slovakia, the EU commissioner met directly with the Prime Minister and really vocally said that this will be a problem if it was to be approved. So we feel we have a bit more protection as opposed to the first Hungarian case or to countries which are not in EU. But we do engage increasingly in the past year also like in international networking, because we do feel that we will need a strong voice, and maybe if it's just like support, joining voices in giving public support to the civil society sector in Slovakia.
So about disinformation and journalism, so I don't think that journalism needs to take something back I think disinformation is the reason why you should understand that journalism is about fact-checking, and it's the reason why you need journalism. So I look at disinformation as a reason why we should use journalism more, and we should understand that good journalism actually costs. And if you don't pay for journalism, you are actually a product. You know, your attention is a product. Usually disinformation is in social media. It's not on journalism platforms. Of course, it can appear definitely if people do not fact check well, but there are different fact checking agencies, so journalists does it. What I think could be also solution, because journalism is not as popular as disinformation. So we should find a way how to spread journalism as easy as fake news. And we should go in different platforms where actually people exist. Usually different types of civil society organization hates TikTok or other platforms like this, but a lot of audience are here. Young people, youngsters are here. Me too. I was waiting until TikTok will be shut down, but it wasn't. So I created an account to see where is the youth, because in young generation I see a big problem. They do not consume media anymore, journalism, and journalism is something which is fact-checked. So there is a huge problem. We need to answer to young people needs, and we try at Media for Change use TikTok and to create reels, quality journalism, to help to spread quality journalism as easy as fake news goes around. So a lot to learn how to do so, but we need to use same methods as disinformation use, and society should be much more media literate to understand that in so many cases you are a product, your attention is a product, and for the good journalism you need to contribute. The ideas, engaged journalism platform is about bringing your ideas, suggesting different topics, expertise, or subscription models. There are different type of business models journalists are experimenting, and I do believe that it's a golden age actually for journalism, because we need to come back to our roots, to come back to the people, to start talking to the people, not to be in the tower and moderating everything without even talking to people. So I think it's in a golden age to come back to the roots, to the quality journalism, because quality journalism, investigative journalism cannot be replaced by automatization and I don't know about artificial intelligence, but in general, it won't be replaced. I don't think investigative journalism can be replaced, that's why we see new rise of journalists. When first time I participated in Global Investigative Journalism Conference from all around the world, there was only 500 people from all around the world who does investigative journalism. 5 years later, it's 3 times more, and it's getting more and more. So there is evidence that, it's golden age, but not an easy. It's dancing in the rain, but I should say, it depends on our attitude. Is it a rain or another opportunity to build better world?
Thank you. I would also like to add that maybe we don't have so much problems with content, but more with form, because we need to find the form in this new age, how to communicate important information and how to frame it. Because previously we had public service media, and those were the foundations of information. Those were the ones providing social consensus about facts which cannot be challenged. For example, the earth is not flat, it was evident. But now I would like to ask for more questions and for more answers after that. Yes?
Спасибо большое за дискуссию. У меня вопрос по гендерной тематике немного. Меня интересует вопрос к Андреа. Как много активизмом занимаются на низовом уровне и как много женщин-режиссеров, которые снимают документальное кино? Неринге, если есть, на ваш взгляд, может быть, вы это, как много, в общем-то, на уровне вот низовом активистов женщин или преобладают мужчины? То есть вот такой гендерный аспект гражданского общества. И в том числе журналистов, расследователей, кто преобладает, женщины, мужчины. Ну, немножко вот, буквально, даже если нет исследований, на ваш взгляд.
So, in our festival team, we have more women engaged. I do know. I'm thinking if I know the gender ratio of the selected movie makers, but I don't have the information. Maybe interesting fact is that we have first time this year a programmatic movie selection committee from renowned experts both from Global South and Global North. So this is one dimension that we have. In terms of civil society, it's definitely, in Slovakia, it's definitely more women engaged in the sector. For our organization has most males in humanitarian work, but also social work. But the whole sector is more women represented. Which then has also consequences in terms of, I don't know, in general also the salaries are lower in civil society. Also because of the unpredictability of funding, we have there's different forms of contracts that we have maybe not so steady. And also interestingly, one consequence of the more frequent attacks on civil society is that when we are recruiting people from outside the civil sector for positions that we share with the private sector, such as HR, finances, we have more and more people asking us directly in the interviews like how we cope with the attacks, whether it's a steady sector, and then we increasingly get rejections of people joining the sector because of the unsteadiness of the sector and because of the sector being under attack.
Further questions?
Yeah, so I remember right at the beginning of the first session, someone mentioned money. There isn't any money in the NGO sector. I mean, if there's no money in the NGO sector, it's even worse for journalism, presumably. I remember I was talking to a journalist recently, and they said to me, you know we're coming under sort of attack from the government or whatever. And then he asked the question, why do they bother? They could just feed them sandwiches and they would do what they were told because there's so little, there's little pay and so much money in the journalism sector. Because it's very, we're in a situation where the old methods of funding journalism are failing. As you pointed out, there's no local journalism anymore in many areas because those old publications have closed down and their funding. And even sort of national and international levels, we're sort of stuck with a sort of niche media, sort of NGO-funded media, which is nice, it's great, but it only goes so far. And we're sort of swamped by this wave of disinformation and social media. So I guess my question is, in this region, is what makes it worse, I think, is that I think in the West, there's a sort of class of philanthropists, I guess, who are willing to bankroll media which is some sort of liberal. In our region, those very rich people are oligarchs, and those people do not tend to be very interested in in financing liberal media or different opinions. So specifically for like our region and those sort of challenges, what do you think the future is in terms of achieving patient long-term financing for investigative journalism specifically, because it's actually a lot more expensive than normal journalism. You can sit at home and write an article quite easily, but investigative journalism often means going out, posing as someone, or there's a lot of legwork involved, which actually costs a lot of money. So where do you think those sources for the future financing of this sort of journalism is going to come in our region, where the very rich people who would otherwise fund it tend to be oligarchs still interested? The NGO donor sector are very short-term in their view. They will fund 1 year, 2 year projects, but not patient financing. Where in 10 years' time are the guardians of Eastern Europe, for example, or whatever? Where is the investigative journalism institutions going to come from in terms of financing?
I know that Germany is lucky because you have a lot of excellent journalism which is empowered by the audience. So this is answer to you. Your time will come. You will have to. In Lithuania, when I was talking like this, everybody told like, you are dreaming, Neringa, it's impossible. And now almost every newsroom has investigative journalism in a team because it's a matter of proud. And people are contributing. We have startups which is starting from zero, and people are paying for good journalism. So if society will understand the need of good journalism, your time will come. And in Lithuania, it took less than 10 years, I think. So hopefully, for you will be the same.
If I may add also the example of Slovakia, because what makes maybe also the case of Slovakia different to Hungary is that we do have strong print media. And it started when one oligarch company took over big part of the share of the most known print media, with a group of journalists separating, creating a new media based on a model of regular payments by the public. And as a result, we have now 2 strong print media. The model of this regular contribution is now also exported to Czech Republic. They even opened the media in Hungarian language, so not only for the Hungarians living in Slovakia, but also to be accessible to the Hungarian public. And they do have increasing growth, and people feel it's necessary, it's important. So there's an ever increasing part of the population ready to pay, which also helps to fighting back the shrinking of civic space. So as an example from Slovakia.
Thank you very much, and then maybe I will add also a few words to this. In Hungary, it was also the case that when the regime-related media conglomerate bought the internet portal Index, then the ones who left grounded Telex, and then that developed into one of the most successful and most widely read news portals in that language. And although oligarchs have a bad rep, in Serbia, for example, they own one of the rare ones, not the only ones, but probably one of the most impactful news portals / TV stations, and they own also a couple of magazines in Serbia, Bosnia, and Croatia, with newsrooms in Sarajevo, Zagreb, and Belgrade, is a businessman located in Great Britain somewhere and owning also a football club. So there is some hope, and there are also good examples of journalists owning newspapers, for example, Respekt in Prague, or in the Czech Republic. So there is some hope, so let we see how this develops into the future. I'm usually pessimistic, although I encourage always the speakers to be optimistic in the end, but then I kill it somehow. But nevertheless, if we would like to wrap up this discussion, then I would like to maybe emphasize then 3 things. One is empathy, and that is probably something that will bring thoughts and minds front, at least for one day, for 1 week, for 1 month, and then further. People need to be heard and seen, either through social media or through documentaries, radio, TV productions. And to conclude, resilient media matters, because democratic resilience without informed and engaged citizens is impossible, and this won't happen without resilient media. So thank you, another round of applause for our participants, and thank you for being here.